Will and Christian in the morning. That's right. We're back. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to season four of Will and Christian in the morning. Back live in the studio, in a studio of sorts. Not really live from my bedroom, but we're back. As always, I'm Christian.
I'm Will.
Will, it's good to be back.
It is good to be back. It's been a while. When was our final episode?
I was looking the other day. It was like 2022 I think we were talking about like the Super Bowl and commercials. Okay. So whenever the Super Bowl was last year.
I know we didn't get a chance to do the proper finale because just like the graduating and finishing college, like all of that, just life got in the way.
Yeah.
But we brought it back. We are now in the same room because we made it through COVID doing it separately. But
we did.
We are now living in the same city, not too far away from each other.
Yeah.
We're both now in Boston.
Very exciting.
Living our adult lives.
And, Will, you've been here for a little bit, but I just got here about 2 months ago. Loving it so far. I think there's still definitely a lot more to explore.
I feel the same way. I've been here for like a year.
But this was one thing that I think kind of felt like a natural decision. We're both in the same city. Why not bring this back? But one thing that was holding us back, that now kind of to transition into our little bit of pre-show news, big thing that kind of prevented us from doing this were the SAG-AFTRA and WGA strikes, which as of a couple days ago, both are now over.
Yeah.
So, that was sort of, there was a lot of talk on like TikTok and Instagram, all these different influencers that are like, I don't really want to talk about TV shows and movies or give any free promo, during these strikes. And, I remember like there were like all those podcasts from like former actors from like the Office ladies and all that, and I mean I thought that was a bit of an annoying trend, but then they were kind of like, we shouldn't do it because the strikes are on. So now that SAG-AFTRA is done, I'm kind of, oh god, Wizards of Waverly Pod is coming back.
Well, and even before we get into the strikes, I feel like since it's been a while, and maybe we'll have some new listeners who haven't listened to the podcast
That's
before,
a good point.
Maybe we should give a little bit of an intro on what we do, because I'm probably going to share this with some of the people that I've met here. But
allow me to reintroduce myself.
Yes. But yeah, this is a pop culture podcast that we started back when we were in college, when we were in an actual radio studio at our school. And I always joke that we did this before every white man started a podcast in 2020. So we beat the trend.
We did beat the trend.
Are the pioneers.
I think we started this sophomore year, which was 2019.
Yes.
I remember Will and I met. We were in the same a cappella group, 54th in the City. Shout out. If you know, go stream us on Spotify. Sad to see the Grammy nominations come and we were not nominated, but whatever. That's a story for another day. But I remember it was the first time when you auditioned second semester. I was already there, for the first semester of freshman year. And you came in second semester, and we were chatting a little bit, and we quickly discovered we were both fans of the show Community.
Yes.
And for those of you who don't know, there is a little bit of a running gag, you could call it, where these two characters, Troy and Abed, have their own talk show, even though it's a fake talk show. There's no cameras or anything. They just it's like a gag that they do in the show called Troy and Abed in the Morning. So then, our junior year, when we were, or not junior, sophomore year, I was like, hey, Will, we should do a radio show, because our radio station, Radio 1851, they were, accepting radio shows and stuff. And I'd always kind of wanted to do something like that, either solo or with somebody. So then I was like, we both like Community, like Will and Christian in the Morning. So, and we kind of stole the jingle and our logo from community. So,
yes.
Dan Harmon.
We've made the show our own, but the jingle is
so
stolen.
Dan Harmon or anybody in the cast, don't sue us. We're just fans. And then, in 2019, we started doing the show, just sort of talking about what we like to talk about: pop culture, movies, TV shows, music, video games, etc. And we had, it was just kind of an excuse to talk about things we liked, and bring our friends on as guests. And then we just, did it in the radio station. COVID hit. We tried doing it at home. We did it, I would say, somewhat successfly. We released some episodes. Then we came back into the studio live senior year. And then we got busy. And now, like a year later, we're here live and we're back. So very excited.
Welcome to any new listeners that we're forcing to listen.
We were opening an entire new target audience to our show. Everybody up here in Boston. Yeah. Clam chowder, Patriots.
It's gonna be wicked fun.
Wicked fun. Some wicked Smaht commentary on movies and stuff.
Yeah, it's not gonna be about
Boston, that was terrible.
Maybe we'll slip in some.
Perhaps.
I don't know.
Yeah. So, in the spirit of that, new listeners, why don't you tell our listeners about yourself? Who are you, Will?
That's a good question. Why can I not think?
A little hawk host intro.
Okay, yeah. Well, I also went to St. Joseph's University with Christian. We both went for marketing, and now I'm not working in marketing. I work in communications. I don't want to talk too much specifics.
Sure, yeah.
But, I get to write a lot, which is something I really like, and I've been able to continue what I love doing outside of school, which is performing. I haven't got to act in a bit, which I want to do. It's a big time commitment, but I have joined a post-collegiate a cappella group filled with other people who did it in college and want to continue. So
very fun.
I'm getting to continue doing that, and just living the adult life in the city, which is really nice. A bunch of our friends are up here now. I was the first one to come up here, so I was kind of by myself for a little bit, and then now a bunch more are up here. So
yeah,
it's really fun.
It is really fun. Important detail Will forgot to mention, but I think this is very important for all new listeners to know. Will was a marketing major, but he also had a German minor, which was something during the show's original run. He became somewhat of a running gag that he liked to mention a lot. But so now Will is a German minor.
My German skills have very quickly deteriorated since graduating college because there's not a lot of chances to practice around here, but maybe I keep meeting people around here who also speak German.
Really?
So maybe I'll start practicing again.
I didn't know Boston was much of a German population.
It's not.
I just happen to meet people who are speaking German.
Yeah.
That's funny. But yeah, so
what about you, Christian?
I'm Christian. I also went to St. Joe's, also majored in marketing. And now I guess you could say I'm kind of still working in marketing. I'm more working on the operations side. I work from home, so we're in like my bedroom / office / studio. But just sort of working, doing stuff in the city. Like I said, I just moved here a couple of months ago. So I'm still sort of figuring out things to do around here. One thing that I have been doing a lot with some friends is going to this one bar in downtown to watch Eagles games, because there is a bar dedicated every Sunday to the Philly fans of Boston. Shout out Philly fans of Boston, everybody at the White Bull Tavern. But like you're saying about I've like the German speaking population might be a little smaller, but I was shocked to see how many Eagles fans there are up here in Boston.
I mean, now that I've been here for a while, it honestly kind of seems like Philly and Boston are kind of like cousin cities.
They're like sister locations.
The vibe of the people, kind of not the nicest, but like the whole like Northeast not nice but kind of attitude.
That's a good way to describe not nice but kind. I really like
they'll
that.
help you out, but they'll like make fun of you while they're doing it. Like I feel like there's some similarities, maybe not like a 1-to-1, but
yeah, I've heard people kind of say like it seems like sort of a popular thing to like you go to college in Philly, but then post grad in Boston, or maybe like grad school in Boston. But I think it's definitely like they're kind of similar-ish cities. I would say I think even though it's not still super reliable, I think the public transit up here is a little more reliable than SEPTA.
Yes.
But yeah, and I think definitely like the feel. There's like a bit of a different feel, but it definitely it's not like as hard of a transition going from Philly to Boston. I feel like it kind of makes sense. I think like the other way around, if you're going from Boston to Philly, it might be a little weird.
Maybe,
but I think like specifically Philly to Boston makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of what we've been up to. So let's get into the show with a little pre-show news, like we mentioned before. The SAG-AFTRA and WGA strikes are over. They had each been going on for like over 100 days separately. They kind of like the WGA started first, and then a little later SAG-AFTRA started.
Yeah.
But it was kind of, it was a big deal. Hollywood has kind of been shut down for a while, so there were movies coming out, but like even if we wanted to talk about, there wasn't like all the pre-show news would be like, oh, this movie got delayed, then
that was already a lot during COVID too.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a big deal, and just wanted to sort of mention a couple things that they were fighting for and like why they were striking. Because I got very into this. Obviously, because I'm very into pop culture and stuff. But the main things they were sort of, I feel like a lot of the things that SAG and WJ were fighting for were similar. A lot of it had to do with residuals for movies and TV shows. There were a lot of people, lots of viral clips and pictures of celebrities. Like there was somebody from Orange is the New Black who got a residual check for literally $0.
I saw that.
And they were in like half of the season that was like super popular, still streaming on Netflix or whatever, and they got paid nothing. And like, why send a check for $0? It's like,
yeah.
And then another big thing was AI, and apparently that was a big point of contention for SAG-AFTRA. That was like the last thing that they had to really, agree on before signing this new deal. And they're just sort of the whole thing on the writer side, people can use AI to write scripts and stuff so they don't have to like pay writers, and it's bad.
Yeah.
But it's free. And I want to ask you this kind of thing about AI and writing. There was
Sure.
a lot of discussion on TikTok about the new song from the Disney movie Wish.
Yes.
This is the thanks I get. There was a lot of discussion about people thought that the writer, the people at Disney sort of chunked into like ChatGPT, write me a Lin-Manuel Miranda style villain song. Do you think there's any possibility that they used AI to write this song?
I don't think so, because especially like with an animated movie, there's a lot more like pre-production that goes into that, and I'm thinking the songs were probably done pretty early, so I feel like they would have been written like a couple of years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
So probably. I mean, maybe they plugged it in,
I don't know.
They're also like touting this as like, oh, it's 100 years. This is like a big movie.
It's kind of a big deal.
So I don't think that they would do that. I think it's just not a super well written
I think it's
song.
just not good. I honestly, like, we were at the movies the other day, and I saw like a poster for Wish, and I feel like this is like the first Disney movie that I like actively don't really want to see.
Oh, I'm gonna see it anyway.
I mean, I think I am gonna see it, but I like, maybe it's because of the strikes and there just hasn't been like that much promotion, but I just like, I don't really know what this movie is. Like, I know it has Ariana DeBose and Chris Pine, but like that's really it. And there's like a goat in it or something.
don't know, like, I think it looks fine. I'll see it.
Mhm.
I think I was the only person, maybe, in the world to see Strange World in theaters when that came out.
I meant to go see that, but I never did.
You didn't miss much. Like, yeah, I feel like a lot of the Disney movies recently just haven't been fantastic. But
Yeah.
I'm hoping this one is at least, like, I mean, I'll always go watch a musical.
Yeah. Did you watch Elemental?
I did.
I heard it was like at first I heard that everyone was like, oh, it's boring, whatever, but then it like actually came out and everybody's like, guys, this is actually really good.
I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, some of it was just like a pretty standard, like, animated movie, but the marketing did not do it justice because it was much more about like all the elements were supposed to be. It was more about like immigrants and like people from different cultures. Like, can they like be in a relationship together? Like, that's kind of the whole big conflict of the movie. But they put it as like, oh, can fire and water be together?
Oh, okay.
But all the marketing was like, all the elements are living in the same world. Like, they didn't make it look good. And then there was the whole... Did you see the TikTok thing where it was like they pumped in fake cheering? Like, Disney put out an ad that was... There's a character in the movie named Claude who's just like this little kid who flirts with the...
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
And so there was a TikTok ad going around of in a fake shaky cam like theater clip, and when Claude comes on screen, everyone just starts cheering, and it's 100% fake. But I guess they were trying to like recreate the like No Way Home.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
But I think once it came out, like it had a lot of like it stayed in theaters for a while. Like it was kind of like a Puss in Boots situation where it made a bunch of money after. Like it didn't have a huge opening, but then it stayed out for a while. But I liked it. It was good. I
might need to check it out because is that Pixar?
Yeah.
Okay. I wonder how it works into the Pixar theory.
That's a good point.
I guess we'll see. But yeah, anyway, back to
the strike.
Yeah, so AI was a big thing in terms of writers, kind of using AI to write scripts, and then for actors, quite literally straight out of BoJack Horseman, using AI to scan actors' faces, paying them once for the scan, and then being able to use their likeness in perpetuity, which it's like everybody, was talking about like, oh, this is like a Black Mirror episode. Like they literally did this in BoJack Horseman. Like he got scanned for the Secretariat movie, and then they're like, oh yeah, we just used your scan to like do the rest of the movie, and then it's. If BoJack Horseman is doing it, then it's bad. Yeah. But that was like a huge thing that like studios were like, yeah, you have to let us use your scan and like not pay you for it at all. And then like it also came out that like in like some Disney Channel zombies movie, they like there were like AI generated people in the stands. So instead of like hiring actors, they like it looked terrible. Like you could tell it was like low budget CGI. It looked like early 2000s CGI. But it's just kind of crazy like looking at it in practice. But they got their contracts and it seems like everybody's happy.
Yeah.
And now so it ended, I think the strike officially ended Thursday at 12:01. And then I proceeded to see about 5 new movie trailers right out the gate.
Yeah, that was like one of the things that I didn't realize how much like movie marketing is just in our lives everywhere, because it just felt kind of quieter not seeing the actors promoting the movies.
Yeah.
Or, like movies would just come out and be like, oh yeah, that came out, and not like in your face, here's 100 interviews and trailers. Yeah. So I wonder how much the actors like that though. Like I feel like some actors probably hate doing those press tours, but because they couldn't promote anything during the strike. So like there were no movie premieres either, really. But I guess that's all back now.
It is all
that
back.
Was maybe the one thing unintentionally about the strike that I didn't mind. Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
There's like I saw a lot of the sort of normal like promotion, but it all just said previously recorded, and like to a certain point in my mind, I was like, are people still just doing this promotion but just slapping a previously recorded on it?
Yeah.
Because I was like, this is just a lot that they recorded previously, like over 100 days ago. And I know, like, obviously movies take a long time to make, but to a certain point, I was like, are they lying about it? But yeah, everything's done. It seems like the WGA and the SAG-AFTRA are happy about it, and very happy for them. They're all going to kind of get their fair share, and I'm excited for some new movies and stuff to come out.
Yeah.
So one of these new trailers that came out, very highly anticipated, live action Netflix remake series of Avatar: The Last Airbender, which I am a fan of. You were a fan of.
Yes.
But there's also somebody else that we know who is also a fan. Come in. So for all our old listeners, I'm sure you know her. Coming out right at the gate with a special guest, friend of the pod.
It's not James from the Berg.
It's not James from the Berg. Friend of the pod, Abby Varker. Abby Varker, say hello.
Hello, everybody! So good to be back, talking about my favorite show ever.
We are glad to have you back.
It's so good to be had, in the words of my father. How you doing, boys?
I'm pretty solid. I'm happy to be back. It's good to, like I said, right out the gate, we already kind of have a special guest. So we're happy to have you. Thanks for being on the show.
Of course. And I, like I said before, talking about my favorite show. So just watched the trailer for Avatar: The Last Airbender, the live action remake.
Yes.
For anybody who hasn't listened to my first guest appearance on Will and Christian in the Morning, it is talking completely about Avatar: The Last Airbender. I'm an expert. I've watched the show many a time. How many
times do you think you've watched it?
I think, well, so here's the deal. I watched it as it was coming out when I was a kid. I took martial arts lessons as a kid because of this show. It then came out to onto Netflix so I could get rewatched and everything. I think since it came out on Netflix in 2020, I have watched it in its totality 3 times. And then when I was a kid, just let's amass all of the reruns that I watched and each episode coming out. I've probably watched it 5 times at least. Korra, I have only watched the first 2 seasons. I am not a Korra fan, haven't gotten through that, but Avatar: The Last Airbender, big fan of that universe, and I'm gonna give some honest thoughts about that trailer for the live action. Just watched it, and I will say, not a fan of the concept of the project, because you guys have talked about a lot on this pod, the whole live action remake thing of something that was already good in an animated format. It's just so tired.
Yeah.
So I've always kind of been, I don't want to say against the project, but kind of rolling my eyes at it of it is such a perfect animated show. Why make a live action remake of it? It just kind of feels pointless, and it's already failed to be done in a live action format before. We won't talk about that.
There's no movie.
No, what are you talking about? So I watched the trailer. I've been converted. It was a very impressive trailer. And I think what I've come to realize is the purpose of putting it in this format is, I think it has 2 main purposes. The first of which is having actual representation for Asian characters.
Yeah.
When in live action, they have to be the ethnicity of the character. But most of the voice actor cast of the original series were not Asian, or not AAPI. There were a lot of white people voicing those characters. Yeah. So it's really good to kind of see that be understood a little better, especially because from the show, I then dove into different aspects of different Asian cultures. I took Taekwondo, which is a Korean martial art, which is structurally very similar to earthbending. So I got to find that connection in my life and learn about that culturally. And then I found out when I was older that Mae Whitman is Katara's voice actress. And I'm like, it's a white woman. What is this? So I think representation is definitely one of the biggest pushes to make this live action, and then also to show off a lot of CGI. And I was worried that it was going to be rushed or it was going to be bad, and that trailer looks impressive.
Yeah, it looked good.
Visually stunning. The costumes match the anime, whether you want to call it a real anime or not. It matches the animated series so well. And all of the effects of the fire, that's what I noticed the most, are stunning. It's just, I really think that they've captured the universe. The only thing that I'm kind of nervous about is I don't know if the live action format is going to help encapsulate the humor of the original show as easily, because that's the thing, when you're in that kind of animated format, you can have those typical anime silly giant head or like the lines around your faces when you're emoting something. You don't get that in live action. So it just looks like it's not going to be as serious as the movie The Last Airbender, but it still looks like it's going to have to carry some seriousness to it. So I'm hopeful about that, but also like hesitant about it. Before watching the trailer, I was like, I'm totally okay not watching the series because, I don't think it's necessary, and I'm so satisfied and overjoyed with the original piece of media. Why would I risk it being ruined by something else? And after watching that trailer, I think I've been converted to, I will watch this. I am excited for it. Hesitant, but excited after seeing that trailer. It was quite compelling.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool trailer, but it's kind of interesting, and I feel, I don't want to say, I guess I could say kind of cautiously optimistic as you are, but I might be a little more confident because I think about this and how I think the writers and everybody involved in the production of the show know how important it is to get it right. And this reminds me a lot of the upcoming Daredevil show. People like friend of the pod, Matthew Rodriguez, he has said, he was like, if they mess up the Daredevil show, he's like, I'm no more Marvel. I'm just going to stop watching. But that's,
everybody's reaching that point with Marvel, like
for different reasons.
For different reasons, yeah.
But Matthew was like, if they mess this up, I'm not watching Marvel ever again. I'm like done with them.
Sure.
But I feel like those two shows are like, they know that, well, there's obviously the similarity that there was a show before them that they're kind of in a way rebooting. But they know they have such dedicated fan bases and they know how important it is to get right. So I have a more optimistic feeling that because of the severity of the show and everything, they need to get it right. So I think they will do their very best to get it right. And like you said, I think there are some things that won't necessarily translate well, like the kind of humor. And I think it has to be a good balance of kind of humor and seriousness as the original show was.
There's also like one thing that I talked about on my episode where I talked about this earlier is the original series' use of filler episodes and how no filler episode was bad. Like, there's one that's bad. I hate The Great Divide, but everything else, even if it doesn't like directly advance the plot, it still really teaches you about the world. It's not like a filler episode where you have to reach 22 episodes a season. It truly, like, all of them have value. And I feel like in the live action format, and especially in this age where TV shows are having longer episodes but fewer episodes, Loki just came out and all the other Marvel shows that have come out are all like 6 episodes each.
Yeah.
So, there's not as much room for filler episodes in the way that we make TV now. And again, we're hoping that kind of the old format can come back after the strike and with a lot more rights in the showrunners and everything. But that's another thing I'm hesitant about with the live action is Avatar is known for having good filler episodes. And I feel like it's very easy to get rid of those or make a 3-minute scene be their nod to a filler episode. So I think it's a lot of like, we'll see, but I'm now more optimistic.
That is excellent to hear, and I'm glad that you've kind of turned, kind of changed your outlook on it a little bit. But it's interesting that little context, like you were kind of getting into it. I had asked Abby, I was like, we're bringing back the show. I want to talk about the Avatar Last Airbender show, like live action show. Would you want to come on and talk about it? And you were kind of like, you were like, you're like, not that she didn't want to come on the show, but she was like, I don't want to watch the trailer. And kind of like you were saying, you don't want it to be tainted, but it was definitely a lot more negative emotion about this show, the concept of the show. You were like, I don't want to, but then, like 10 minutes ago, we sat down and watched the trailer, and you were like, big. I like saw you were smiling. I'm like, oh, okay.
I was smiling and I had tears in my eyes. Like my eyes were watering up because I was just like, I got the sense of, I think they're gonna honor it. Because it's something that is so special to me and something that has shaped my morals and literally my activities. Like 10 years of my life were devoted to martial arts because of this show. And it was just something that really meant a lot to me. And that's why I'm always so scared of it being tainted. But I watched that trailer and my eyes were welling up because I feel like it's going to be respected. Yeah,
and they better.
And it's coming out February. I don't know why I thought it was like 2 years away still.
I think everything with the strikes, everything got pushed back. I'm like, oh, I'm just expecting everything to come out like in years. But then it was like, oh, February, and everything's coming out so soon. I was like, oh, okay.
It's also like the strike didn't mean that things weren't in production. And like, as soon as Avatar got dropped on Netflix, like the original animated series, they were like, cool, let's make some money, live action. Yeah. And they started working on that fast. So this thing has been in production for like 2-3 years now. Okay. So it's definitely time. Even with the strike, I knew it was going to come out fairly soon. So it's February 22nd, dropping on Netflix, season 1, book 1, whatever you want to call it, of the live action Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah, and we'll be sure to talk about it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, but Abby, thank you again for coming on the podcast. I'm sure this is not the last time that you will be on. So thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. And everybody make sure to tune in to the next episode of Will and Christian and Abby in the Morning.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So another quick little thing I want to talk about. This is another show that came out during the strikes that we definitely would have talked about. The Ahsoka show.
Yes.
Will, what did you think of the Ahsoka show?
So I enjoyed it, but I feel like it followed the trend of some of the Disney Plus shows where it feels like nothing really happens for most of the show.
Yeah.
And up until like close to the end, it felt like Ahsoka was just like a little bit too emotionless.
I kind of agree.
How her character has been portrayed in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But there was some really cool stuff, especially with a certain character. I guess
it's been out for a while. I think we can talk about
all the Anakin stuff was so cool.
It was really good.
And we actually tried right after you moved to see the Clone Wars flashback episode in theaters, and we were 5 people away from the door before they said that they were full.
Yeah, so that was pretty sad. And Will was like, "Oh, well, I'll just go home and watch it myself."
And I was like, "This episode better suck." And then it ended up being
incredible. Did not suck. But I feel like I'd kind of like assumed they would do some sort of Clone Wars flashback, and I was worried that it would be Clone Wars flashback for the sake of a Clone Wars flashback. But I think that specific episode was a really good kind of like character development for Ahsoka, and I think it kind of like, you know, you were talking about her being kind of emotionless, which I did not like, but I think this kind of made it make sense, like how she was like worried that she would become like Anakin, that she was sort of in the same situation as Anakin. Now she is the Padawan, and like her master became Darth Vader. Like, is she gonna like turn out to be the same thing? Because she is the apprentice of Anakin Skywalker, who is now Darth Vader. I don't think that makes it like good. Her whole sort of emotionless thing, I thought that was a little like, she was like a little too stoic, and
I that thing that you mentioned, I don't think they explained that very well in the show for most of it.
Yeah,
like, they kind of were just, I don't know, and it was more of a Rebels show than Ahsoka.
It was Rebels season 5,
but
yeah,
it felt more like a movie, which was kind of cool.
Yeah,
and I liked the villains, although they kind of just disappeared.
Yeah, and Ray Stevenson died, which is unfortunate. Maybe that's a hot take, especially because I think his portrayal was really good. I did not love Baylan Skoll. I think he felt underdeveloped. I think there was a lot of potential. Like, I liked the idea of like, he's like kind of a Sith, but not really a Sith. And he's like, I miss the idea of the Jedi Council. But then it's become something like, I think that's really interesting, but I feel like he did a lot of just like standing around, and he was still kind of like the bodyguards for the Night Sister, for like the witch, and like Morgan Elsbeth. I did not like her. I thought she was boring. Shout out to my mom. Because my mom and my brother, we watched all the episodes of Ahsoka together on Teleparty, and I remember when she, like, the whole time she was like, I hate Morgan Elsbeth. Like, she's so dumb, I hate her. And then, in the last episode, when she was, like, sort of building up, like, they were building up, like, she was gonna die, like, my mom in the chat, she was like, yes! Kill her! And she was so excited to see Morgan Elsbeth die.
That's funny.
It was really funny. But, yeah.
The only other thing I was going to say, I really liked the actor who played Ezra.
He was, like, oh my god. So, you know this. Most of our listeners know this. I do not like Star Wars Rebels. I think it's fine. But I am not a huge fan of a lot of, I didn't really like Ezra. I didn't love Sabine. Did not like Zeb. Did not like Chopper.
I love Zeb.
Well, I liked him in like one episode.
Okay.
But I think the Rebels characters in this show were very good. I liked Hera before.
I thought that was a miscast. I didn't think she felt like Hera at all.
Yeah. I think that's fair. I think she was like...
And that sucks because Hera's like my favorite character.
Yeah. I think Sabine was like perfect.
Yes.
I loved Sabine in the show. I think it was like, it was funny. She was like the same kind of character she was in Rebels, but somehow in the show, I just liked her a lot more.
Yeah.
And I think something that kind of helped me not like Rebels was the animation style. I think that made it hard to like a lot of it. And then, like you were saying, Ezra was also really good. I thought he was sort of, and that's another thing, I didn't like Ezra in the Rebels show, but I liked him a lot here.
Yeah.
Are you good?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. But yeah, I thought the Ahsoka show was good. I think sort of overall.
It was good.
Mm-hmm.
I was excited to watch it every week.
Yeah. I was never like not excited. Like
Book of Boba Fett.
Oh god, yeah. But I think overall it was a good show. Yeah, solid. Yeah. Okay. Well, now it's been like 37 minutes. Well, we're trucking along. So I guess the sort of main topic that I wanted to talk about today. You and I both saw 2 movies in the past couple days.
Yes.
We saw The Marvels, which just came out.
Yes.
And we saw the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, which came out a couple weeks ago. And I kind of wanted to talk about our thoughts. We're not going to be talking about The Marvels in a spoiler sense because that just came out a couple days ago. So we're going to kind of,
light spoiler-free review.
Yeah, but I think because FNAF has been out for a bit, and that's something I would like to talk a little deeper because we had a discussion about it, but this is sort of more spoilery thoughts. That's something I would want to talk about. Yeah. So I think let's start with The Marvels because that's going to be a little lighter. What did you think, Will?
So, since we've last spoken on the podcast, my love of Marvel it's still there, but like a lot of people, I think a lot of the stuff coming out recently has just not been that great.
Yeah.
Like, Ant-Man came out, did not really like it.
Secret Invasion, I think, was a huge miss. Yeah, I think it could have been really good. But...
Even Miss Marvel, some of that, like half of that show I didn't really like.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just been kind of a consensus online that it seems like Marvel's like failing and
the MCU is in shambles, as every TikToker
which is not really true because they're still making hundreds of millions of dollars. But I went into this movie with low expectations. I was like, you know what? It seems like it'll maybe be fun. I only watched the first trailer, which I'm glad I did because the trailers gave away a lot.
The trailer, like that last trailer with Thanos and Iron Man, is like
straight up.
What was that?
But oh my god! I went in and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I don't think it's a perfect movie, but it feels much more like a good Phase 2 Marvel movie.
I think it's a good way to describe it.
I don't know. Like, I really enjoyed it. I'll definitely be seeing it again.
Yeah, I think I'm going to also see it again. I think that's interesting. You say it's like a good Phase 2 movie. I feel like the first Captain Marvel movie felt a little Phase 1-y.
I thought this was better than the first Captain Marvel.
I
don't think it was a good Captain Marvel sequel.
No.
But I think it was a better movie.
Yeah. I think I liked it. I don't think I liked it as much as you did. But definitely it was fun. And I think it was kind of like, if I'm thinking like as a movie in terms of like the plot, I think I saw somebody said this online recently that I kind of agree with. It felt kind of like, you know how in sitcoms, how it's kind of less about like what the characters are actually doing and more about like their reactions and interactions with it. I think that's how this movie was. I think the plot was kind of weak. I thought the villain was not that great, but I think what was most important in sort of the core of this movie was Carol Danvers, Monica Rambeau, and Kamala Khan. I feel like the three of them together was the reason why this movie was good, and just their interactions. I think the chemistry was great.
Yes.
I think they worked really well together. For any of you haters that said Captain Marvel needs to emote more, go watch this movie. She is definitely, Brie Larson was having a lot more fun in this role. And I think it helped that she actually had like a better supporting cast, because I feel like in the first one it's like kind of just her and Nick Fury.
Yeah.
But now it's like she has the other two there, and I think it really works. I think even like as a movie with, you know, plot wise, I don't think it was that strong, but I had a lot of fun watching it. The fight scenes were really well done. And just sort of all their interactions, I think, worked. You know, and I'm not going to talk about it too much, but that post-credit scene, or the mid-credit scene.
Yeah.
Wow. If you have not seen this movie yet, first of all, go see it. Second of all, avoid spoilers. This is not something that you want to get spoiled.
One of the things I like, yes, it's still very much a Marvel movie. Right? Like, it's somewhat formulaic. Like, you kind of know where it's going to go, but I just thought it was executed pretty well. Like, lately I've been a little annoyed by the Marvel humor that you see in like that just happened, and like the quippiness.
Yeah.
And there was still a lot of jokes in this movie, but it felt like a different style of humor almost. It's just like, it's a very fast movie. Like, it's kind of just a breakneck speed.
Yeah.
Like,
literally.
not a lot of downtime.
And this movie is like an hour 40 something. So it like, I think it felt short, but like that's a good thing. Like, I liked that it was fast kind of thing. And it was just sort of like a little, like, it's like a fast-paced fun adventure. It's like like Martin Scorsese says, the Marvel movies are like roller coaster rides. This felt like a kind of roller coaster, like everything's sort of like boom, boom, boom.
And I like a lot of the jokes, I feel like there's a joke and then it's immediately on to the next thing. So like, it's not lingering too long. Like, I feel like something like Thor Love and Thunder would do. Like, there's one scene that, it's not a spoiler, but it might have even been in the trailer, where like someone like falls out of the sky, and I'm trying to explain it. It's not a spoiler. There's a scene where like the whole plot point of the movie is that these characters can't use their powers at the same time, or they'll swap places. And there's a scene where that happens and someone's in danger, and then Captain Marvel switches places with them, hits the ground, and Nick Fury's like, oh, it's just Carol. Okay, cool. And then we just move on. And I don't know, like, I liked that style of humor a bit better, and I thought the jokes were actually funny. Like, the theater was cracking up.
I think a lot of the reason why it was so funny was because a lot of the humor was on Iman Vellani.
Yes.
And I think she was my favorite part of this movie.
Me too. Absolutely.
I love Miss Marvel, even if the show, I'm a Miss Marvel show defender, but I can admit that it was not the best. I think Miss Marvel, the character in the MCU, is just, I love her. And I've seen a lot of comparisons. This is her Marvel movie debut, because she was just in her show.
This is probably her first movie too.
I think so. Yeah. She didn't have any other acting experience before she was cast. But I've seen a lot of people compare her in this movie to like the energy and charisma of Tom Holland's Spider-Man in Civil War. And I get the comparisons. I think she's going to be sort of like, she's going to be here for a bit. She's going to be kind of like a Spider-Man type superstar. And definitely like it's not really a credit scene because it just sort of happens at the end of the movie, which I don't really get why. Like
it was a credit scene.
I don't know why. Like whatever. But as that show, like she's going to be here for a bit, and and I think she definitely deserves her place. She was. I love Amon Villani. I love Miss Marvel. So
yeah, and I thought most of the visual effects looked good. There was some standard Marvel dodginess.
It always
like
happens.
Some weird green screen or weird like body doubles, but like the fight choreography was really good.
It was really good,
like easy to watch.
And the whole concept of like the body switching or like the place switching, I think made for some really creative choreography, especially in the sort of climactic fight scene. I think that's sort of they did it really well. But even like the first scene when they like are kind of figuring out what is happening, I think that was really well done, and it was just fun to watch.
Yeah, and there's always like a big question how like they kind of have to nerf Captain Marvel every time she's in something because she's really powerful. And in Endgame, that nerf was just that she disappears.
Yeah,
but,
and then she comes back.
I felt like a good reason to not have her using her powers all the time because the whole thing is like, oh, we have to be careful because we might switch places if we're using her powers. I think that's a very like creative way to, like you said, nerf her. But yeah, I think it was a solid movie. I think like I said before, it felt fast but in a good way, but I think it kind of felt fast in a bad way, like towards the end. That's fair. The ending was kind of rushed and it kind of left me feeling like you didn't think of this earlier kind of thing. Like the sort of how the plot is resolved. I'm like, if you thought of this earlier, this movie would not have happened. Yeah. But that is definitely not to say that I didn't enjoy the movie. I liked it. If you look at my letterbox, I think I give 3 out of 5 stars. I think it was solid. I enjoyed it. And this was the first, not the first, but one of the big experiments of crossing over a bunch of Disney Plus content with the movies. Like we saw it in Multiverse of Madness a little bit, but this is the first one where it's like, oh, if you haven't watched Miss Marvel, you do not know who Miss Marvel is.
Yeah, because I think like in Multiverse of Madness, like a little chunk of like, you know, like her kids were there, but they were sort of like there kind of in the background, but like, you know, even if you didn't watch WandaVision, you know who Wanda is, and you know who Doctor Strange is. But like, if you didn't watch WandaVision and Miss Marvel, you're like, who's Miss Marvel? Who is Monica Rambeau? I guess you would kind of know her.
If you watch the first Captain
Marvel, she's like, it's like, oh, it's the kid. Yeah. But you like might not really remember. Like, I didn't know. I think when I first watched WandaVision, I was like, oh, her name is Monica. Like, I didn't realize. And then like she's an adult now, so it's like a big difference. But it definitely, you know, Miss Marvel came from a TV show, so I think it's interesting when it's like, I'm sure like to an external viewer, they're like, ugh, now I have to like get Disney Plus and watch the shows now. But like, you know, as a fan, if you're like kind of already in it, then it's like, it's kind of cool to see like the TV shows crossing over with the movies, which is something I always wanted to happen with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but blah, blah, whatever.
But I feel like you don't necessarily have to have watched the show. Like, I feel like they do a good enough job of being like, here's who this character is, like, here's some stuff that they know that's important from their show. Yeah. But I am realizing I don't think it's a great sequel to the story of Captain Marvel 1, because there's barely any scrolls in this movie. Like, they kind of just dropped that plot. Also, you don't need to watch Secret Invasion.
No, you do not. And honestly,
don't
watch Secret Invasion. It's just not good.
But yeah, I just really enjoyed it. Maybe I just wanted a fun Marvel movie.
And I think it definitely did that. And I think Marvel movies need to be okay with just having fun movies not everything needs to like set up the future.
Like, Ant-Man took itself too seriously, but also was like not funny.
And I feel like the reason they did Quantumania was to set up Kang instead of ending the Ant-Man trilogy, which I think if they focused on that a little more would have been better. But it was just like, where could we put Kang? Oh, let's put it in Ant-Man, which I don't think made sense. But
this movie just made me realize I want more team-ups before the next Avengers, because like imagine if these characters didn't meet each other until Kang Dynasty.
Yeah.
That would be so dumb.
It would be dumb. So I'm glad that it was a good movie, and I'm glad I saw it. Now we'll definitely be seeing it.
Go see it. Don't watch the trailer. I think going blind is the best way. Or maybe only watch the first one, because that doesn't really give away much.
Yeah. But yeah, go see this movie. So now the last thing we're going to talk about, the funny bear movie, Five Nights at Freddy's, the movie. Obviously a hotly anticipated movie that has been in development for a long time.
Yeah.
And we were just talking about this after the movie yesterday, that it's been like 10 years since the first game came out.
Almost, yeah. Well, I've just realized, because I was talking to people about this movie, and maybe it's just because I'm talking to people who are older now, but they're like, they don't know what Five Nights at Freddy's is, so I feel like maybe we should give just a very brief introduction to what FNAF is.
So, Five Nights at Freddy's was an indie horror game that came out in 2013.
2014.
Right? 2014. Created by Scott Cawthon. And the basic concept is, it's kind of like a survival horror game where you are a security guard in this defunct 80s pizzeria called Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
Like a Chuck E. Cheese.
Like a Chuck E. Cheese type thing. And there are these animatronics, again, like Chuck E. Cheese. And your main goal is to survive 5 nights where you have these 4 animatronics, kind of 5, but 4 main animatronics, Freddy Fazbear, Chica, Bonnie, and Foxy, that all kind of come try to attack you and kill you. So you have to spend, from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m., which in reality is like 6 minutes, 5 nights at Freddy's where these animatronics are trying to kill you, and you have to conserve power and kind of prevent them from coming into the office.
See where they're at.
Mm-hmm. And that little game blew up and now has become such a lore-heavy franchise that now it's like there's so much lore. And there's the games, there's books.
There's like there's so many games. There's fan-made, like, canon-adjacent content.
Yeah, it started as a little indie game, and it is now a massive franchise.
And also a franchise that is beloved by kids, which is weird, because, I guess, spoilers for the games, but it's very murder heavy, child murder heavy.
Like the whole kind of the first bits of lore you learn in the first game is that the reason why Freddy Fazbear shut down is because 5 kids were murdered and went missing in this pizzeria, and they were never found. And this whole thing kind of revolves around this guy, who killed kids and is, stuffing them in animatronic suits. And it's scary, but like the kids are like, I feel like we're older now. Like I don't think I can play the games. I think I would be too scared.
I played them when I was in, I think, my freshman year of high school. I played on my phone, and I don't like games or jump scares, but I would do it just because like I liked the concept.
Yeah,
and I thought it was a cool concept because I went to Chuck E. Cheese growing up.
Yeah,
and like, oh, that's a fun twist. And originally the lore was not that deep, so it was like
now
it was fun to like theorize on some stuff, but
and
it's blown up with the kids.
It has. And I never played the games, but I think I watched Markiplier play all of the games.
Big YouTube blow up too,
and
YouTube was playing it.
And I think the main reasons why it blew up were Let's Players like mainly Markiplier, the self-proclaimed king of Five Nights at Freddy's, and also Matt Pat of Game Theory, who has made way too many theories about this game, and it has gotten so huge that even Scott Cawthon, the creator of the game, has sort of put in things in these games specifically like for Matt Pat to find, and he has commented like on his theory about FNAF 2. Scott Cawthon was like, Matt, you got everything right except one thing, and like that's how deep like Matt Pat was in it. Anyway, sort of setting the stage for this movie, I think it sort of only made sense to make a movie about this huge lore heavy universe. It was really good.
I really enjoyed it. I don't think it was, again, I don't think it was like a top tier cinematic masterpiece,
No.
but as a fan of the games, I thought it was pretty good. I was surprised because I went online after we watched it and everyone said it sucked.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't fully agree.
No, and I remember Blumhouse, who is they created this movie, and they're like, big horror people. Like, they made a lot of great horror movies. They said, like, Jason Blum on, like, Seth Meyers or something, he said, this movie is, there are, like, a lot of movies that, they're like, oh, this is for the fans, but also for a new audience. Jason Blum was like, this movie's for FNAF fans and nobody else. So I kind of feel like, and this happens a lot, like, the critics hate it, but the fans love it. I feel like this is one of those movies that you kind of need to know the lore at least a little bit to kind of get enjoyment.
Yeah.
Because, I'm very engrossed in the lore, and I was surprised that they took the sort of pre-established lore, because this is sort of mostly based on the first game. We have this guy, Mike Schmidt, played by Josh Hutcherson, who gets a security gig at Freddy Fazbear's, and he spends 5 nights sort of, upkeeping this, the restaurant and surviving. Yeah. But they did a lot of new things that, like, surprised me, which is so weird, because I was like, I'm so into the lore, I'm gonna, like, know the story beat by beat. They did new things. Like, there was this whole thing with Mike, like, the whole subplot, and sort of, like, changed his character motivations. And we're getting into spoiler territory. So if you've not seen this movie, go see it. Come back and listen
Peacock
to this.
Also.
It is on Peacock, so this is I feel like we can talk about spoilers, because if you have Peacock, you can watch it. It's pretty accessible, even if you can't make it to the theater. I would say that I think this is a good movie to watch in theaters. We saw it with Abby yesterday. Nobody else in the theater.
It was just us,
so
we could talk.
We kind of had that at home feel, but on the big screen and the big seats and everything. But this whole thing, Mike, as a kid, his brother, what was his name? Like, Garrett. His brother Garrett was kidnapped when he was at this family picnic. He saw his brother being driven away in this truck. And ever since that day, Mike has been trying to dream about it and sort of gather details to figure out who kidnapped his brother. And in this franchise that's all about kids getting kidnapped, I think it was very interesting. The whole dream thing was really interesting. Like, he had like a book on dream theory, and how he was like, everything you've ever seen is in your mind somewhere. You just have to kind of pull it out. So he tries to recreate the dream. He like falls asleep to nature sounds and looking at a picture of like a forest. And he tries to get back into the dream to sort of look around and be like, okay, what's up with the truck? Who kidnapped my brother so I can go find him? And then that sort of becomes intertwined with the kids that got murdered in Freddy Fazbear's, because, sort of in the end, you find out there is a common thread that connects his brother's disappearance with these kids' disappearance. But I thought that was really interesting and unique, and something that, like, it kind of made it work as a movie, because this is like a movie specific thing that also connects to what happened in the games.
Yeah, and it was, I was talking about this after we saw it. I feel like sometimes in games or in movies like this that are based on games or popular franchises, like, they're just always trying to get to the good stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why the first thing popping into my head is like the Godzilla movies recently, where you don't care about anything that the humans are doing.
You're there to see.
You want to see Godzilla blowing stuff up.
Yeah.
And it's because of that, the human parts are boring, and they make that a lot of the movie. But like this one, it wasn't just them trying to get to the animatronics right away. You don't even see the animatronics really till like 40 minutes into the movie, maybe. Yeah. Maybe not that long, but maybe like a half hour.
I think like the presence is definitely felt, because the movie opens with the previous security guard getting killed by Foxy, but like you don't really see Foxy. You just hear his little dum 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 dum. So like it sort of sets the stage, like, oh, like this is scary.
Yeah, like in the game, there's not a lot of backstory when you're playing it. It's just kind of like you are a security guard, so in the movie, I think the premise makes sense. Like, oh, it makes sense that Mike would go to this creepy pizza place to work because
he needs money.
Yeah, he needs the money. Like, the motivations make sense, and the reasons why he keeps going back make sense. Because he keeps having those dreams. Because
you think like any sane person who would work one shift at Freddy Fazbear's, you would be like, I'm never doing this again. And you think about the games, like, you know, you're almost getting murdered by animatronics. Like, why you keep coming back? I think like Mike Schmidt is like, he's desperate for money and he has a sister to take care of. So
and he becomes obsessed with, like, he starts getting clues about his brother, so he gets obsessed, so he's like, I have to go back.
Yeah, and I think that makes it make sense. One thing about the animatronics themselves, it is insane how good they look.
Yes.
Shout out to Jim Henson Studios. They did a fantastic job. They look like they were pulled straight from the games.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of thought that, like, because like Five Nights at Freddy's is a horror game, but it's kind of taken on this sort of like meme status too. So I feel like I look at Freddy Fazbear and I'm not scared. I think it's funny. So I was worried that they would just look too goofy, but like it was like, if you're a horror fan and you want to go see a horror movie, this is not the movie.
This
for
movie
you.
Is not scary.
Is not scary, which is good for us because we do not like scary movies.
Scared.
But there were definitely some moments of tense suspense and like they're not like overtly gruesome, but like you see like in a silhouette.
So this movie was PG-13, and I think in some of for the most part, it's pretty tame. But like some of the violent scenes, like there was more blood than I was expecting.
Yeah,
there is, like you said, there's a scene where I guess
we're talking spoilers.
It's in the trailer. But like a woman gets chomped in half by an animatronic, and you kind of see like. It's kind of gruesome.
Yeah.
Cut away, like you just see it in silhouette.
But you see like her body, literally like half of her body falling to the ground.
You like see some of her like organs. Briefly. Or there's a guy whose face gets cut. Yeah. You kind of see the aftermath. Like it's more gruesome than I thought it was going to be. Yeah.
But it's not like. There were like scenes where I was like, ew, but like it was never like that bad.
No, and I mean a whole thing of the games is always like implied violence.
Yeah,
like it's not like a gruesome, gory scene. Like the jump scare, like you don't see what happens after you get jump scared by the animatronics.
I think you'll agree with this. I think the scariest jump scares were just the balloon boy. Yeah, because he just like appears. He's creepy.
Those got me good.
Because it just kind of comes out of nowhere and they play the little like kind of sound.
Yeah, but I'm kind of glad they like, again, it's not scary, but there's tense scene. Like you were saying, it's almost more like a thriller.
Yeah,
and I was a little worried going in that because it's so loved by kids that they were gonna kind of make it a little bit too kid friendly or too toned down, which I don't think they did.
No, I think like. I think it was just like, it was a good movie and it like something as lore heavy and expansive as Five Nights at Freddy's, the franchise, that has done a lot already. I was refreshed that they did something. They took the old, but also made it new. Like everything with the dream stuff and even like, again, spoiler. We're already talking about spoilers. The twist, there's the police officer, Vanessa, who in the games, Vanessa, the security guard, doesn't show up until Security Breach, which takes place in like 2030 something, when this is like early 2000s. So, I was kind of going in confused, like, why is Vanessa here in the first game movie? But then the twist at the end is that she is the daughter of William Afton. And I'm like, that's new. And that's not what I was expecting. That was really cool. And it sort of made it for like, and like Mike Schmidt, we all kind of went in thinking that he was going to be Michael Afton, because in the games, Mike Schmidt is Michael Afton. And he's not, but, so it's sort of like taking these pre-established characters, twisting them a little bit, but it still like feels like FNAF.
Yeah. I was just thinking of things that like, it did a good job of, because you find out in the games that the animatronics are just like the ghost of children, and they do a good job like reminding you of that, because there's just like a whole scene where the animatronics are nice and they're like building a fort.
Yeah,
which is kind of weird.
It is weird.
I do wish that there were a couple more scenes of like the animatronics doing what they do in the game.
Yeah.
I feel like there isn't much. Like a lot of times when Mike goes to work, he just falls asleep.
Yeah.
And that's like not really what happens in the
yeah.
game.
And like I kind of get that they're trying to stay away from like, so it's, the movie isn't just Mike watching the cameras, but I think it could have used a couple more little scenes of like he sees like Chica looking into the camera creepily, like that's
like Foxy stalking someone.
Yeah,
like, that happens a couple times. But.
Yeah, I think they could have done like a couple more things, and I think like at first like the scene of them, and I think I kind of got spoiled. Like I heard people talking about the Freddy Fazbear wouldn't build like a blanket fort, like that's so stupid. But like I think like initially I was like, this is weird, but then it's like, oh, like they're just ghost kids, like they're kids and they just want to play. And I like this sort of like they like kids and they're never gonna actually harm a kid unless William Afton makes them. But they don't like adults, so they don't really like Mike. Speaking of William Afton, I thought, and so they're like the plot twist, but like everybody knew it, that Matthew Lillard's character, who is like a career counselor in the beginning of the movie, Steve Raglan, he is William Afton. Like we all knew this.
In the game's the man who killed all the
He is Purple Guy. He's the guy who killed everybody. I think we didn't see enough. We didn't see a lot of him.
I wish there was more of him.
I wish there was more, but I also think it's good that he wasn't like in it that much, because I think it's a good twist, I guess, even though we all knew it. But like the little bit that he was in, like the Springtrap suit was like, that was creepy. Yeah. And I think they did a good job with that. Again, the animatronic suits are great. But I think I'm very excited to see more of Matthew Lillard's William Afton. I think he is very good for the role.
Definitely.
Which is funny because I only know him as Shaggy, but he also was like a big horror movie veteran too.
Like Scream and everything.
So I'm very excited to see more of him. And it's been confirmed that he signed for a 3-movie deal. So, and after seeing how successful this movie is, they are going to be making more. And I kind of cautiously welcome it. I think, so Five Nights at Freddy's 2, the game, is actually a prequel. You kind of go to like a different location, but it's sort of supposed to be, further back in the timeline. I think a second Five Nights at Freddy's movie that's kind of a prequel, I think will be good. Now that we know who William Afton is and we know Vanessa is his daughter, I think it would be a good sort of making it like the game of all that, like sort of like building more on the lore. Who is William Afton? Who is Vanessa? And like what's their relationship? Because that's a new thing that wasn't in the games. So I think that could be cool. And like I would love to see more of Matthew Lillard as William Afton.
And the acting was good. Like Josh Hutcherson was good. The kid actor of his sister was good and not annoying.
The kids were really good. I was surprised because usually child actors are not that great.
Yeah.
But I think all the kids, like the ghost kids and Abby especially, I think were
the only
were
one I
good.
didn't love was Vanessa.
She played it really weird. She was like I get that she was trying to be like mysterious and like, oh, I'm hiding something, and now like the audience knows it by the way I'm playing this. But it was just like, oh, have you met them yet? And it was like, it felt very strange.
Did you ever see Detective Pikachu?
I did not.
Okay. It's pretty good, but it reminded me of the girl in that movie who I also did not like. It's just like, it felt like just weird acting. Yeah. I don't know.
Speaking of weird acting, another kind of big cameo in this movie, Matt Pat shows up. And I was watching a video of his yesterday because he like made a video like, surprise, I'm in the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. But he said that what I thought was really cool, his scene was the very first thing they shot. It was like day one. Oh, wow. They shot the scene in Sparky's. But first of all, he said that his character was named Ness. It was specifically because Scott Cawthon wanted to make reference to his Sans' Ness theory. Oh. And he was like, Matt Pat's character needs to be named Ness. But Matt Pat was kind of talking about, and he was like, I didn't want to, the big thing he said, like people think breakfast is the most important meal of the day, but that's just a theory. He said he like really wanted to deliver it without that sort of cringy YouTuber humor.
Did not succeed.
It was still kind of cringy, but he said that they did a take where they wanted him to do it like he does in the videos. They wanted him to do it like, that's just a theory. And then he was like, are you sure? I feel like that'll sound bad. And they did it, and they're like, that's just bad. Just do it differently. And I think his delivery was not really that great. I think he did not need to say that's just a theory.
Okay.
The fact that he's in the movie alone is sort of like enough to be like, oh, that's so cool. But like, he did not need to say his line. That's stupid.
All right.
But it was cool to see him in there, and it was sad not to see Markiplier in there. That was scheduling conflicts. But I hope he can be in the second movie.
I'm sure. I just realized, like, it was also cool that Scott Cawthon, the creator, like, had a big part in creating this, which I think probably is why it feels so faithful.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we've seen it before in other movies where, like, I'm just thinking of Percy Jackson.
I was also thinking Percy Jackson.
Where the creator, like, is not involved and it sucks. So,
yeah.
I think we're getting into an era of good video game movies and video game shows like Last of Us. And, I mean, Mario is good kids movie.
Yeah.
Again. Like, it's good.
There's Illumination, you know.
Hopefully this new Legends of Zelda movie ends up being good.
It's not gonna be good. Oh my god. I think, like, The Legend of Zelda is not something that you should, like, adapt into a movie, because they're gonna make Link speak.
If anything, I feel like it would work as, like, an anime or something.
I think it would make a good anime, but
just like the art style.
Yeah, but I don't think if it was like a Studio Ghibli movie, I feel like that would be. Is it Ghibli?
I never know.
Studio Ghibli, whatever. I think that would, like, kind of be cool, but like it's just like Sony making it. It's like the same people behind like Morbius and I think it's kind of doomed to fail. I don't think it's going to work.
Yeah,
but
I'm trying to think. Yeah, like Last of Us is really good. The Uncharted movie was fine.
Really? I thought you didn't like it.
I liked it because I love Uncharted.
Okay.
So I like the Easter eggs, but it's not that faithful to the games.
Yeah.
But, like, I think there's other like there's gonna be a God of War show on Amazon. It's kind of pointless because the game is pretty much like a movie.
Yeah, I think, like, I feel like for the most part, a lot of these video games, like the sort of story-based video games like The Last of Us, I think they work better as TV shows than movies.
Yeah.
So that you have, like, you have time to develop the characters and sort of stretch everything out. I have not watched The Last of Us yet. I would very much like to watch it. But I got a lot of other things on my plate. I got to start watching Invincible season 2. So very excited about that.
Yeah, I'm trying to. There was one other one I was thinking. Oh, like, I don't know. I feel like in the future we'll end up seeing like a Minecraft movie or something.
A Minecraft that's in development.
Really? Okay.
It's okay. So and now that the strikes are done, they're moving forward. But Jason Momoa is Steve.
Is this like a live action?
It's a live action Minecraft movie. That casting makes no sense to me. I don't know how can you make a Minecraft movie? Minecraft is like, there's no plot. The game is, I don't understand it, but you know, we'll see.
Well, hopefully these upcoming video game movies are good, but
yeah.
we liked 5 Nights at Freddy's.
A lot of people didn't, but if you are a fan of the lore and you are a fan of Five Nights at Freddy's, this is a movie for you. If you are a horror fan, this is not for you. If you're just like a casual viewer, I
think you could still enjoy it, but we also just spoiled the whole movie.
Yeah, but I think definitely still go see it. It's good. It really is good. A lot of people didn't like it, but I liked it a lot.
I liked it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that's going to be it for this new episode of Will and Christian in the Morning. Thank you everybody so much for listening.
Thank you.
You can check us out on Instagram for all updates at WC in the Morning. We're going to bring back the Instagram. Yeah. And you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
DM us with suggestions of things to talk about.
Yeah. And we're back. We're kind of, we're outside of, we're not in college anymore. We're not in the college radio station. So, we can kind of up the rating a little bit. Kind of, we can say whatever the hell we want. Yeah, I remember we were, I had to like really like make sure.
We could have done whatever we wanted.
We could. Essentially we could have, but like they had said like, don't swear, don't talk about these things. But, I think we have a lot more freedom with this, so it can be kind of like a cool thing. So if you have suggestions of things you guys want to see for these two white guys doing a podcast, let us know.
Yeah.
But thank you everybody for listening. It's very happy to be back. Yeah. I'm really excited. And we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.